Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So it's my pleasure to introduce Srila Nirajana Swami today. And it's really a historical day because Maharaj was for the first time here for many in Bucharest. And we personally, with Moksha were waiting for the last 6 years. And I even sometimes I was visualizing how Maharaj is singing for us, how he is giving his association and his class, and finally it happened. You heard many things about him from me and also from Moksha. And I'm so glad that Maharaj is here. And Srila Prabhupada once said that a preacher, he is like a British soldier with the heart of a Bengali mother. And all the time when I come across this example that Srila Prabhupada is giving, I usually always meditate on Srila Niranjan Maharaj because he is very active for the last, 50 years in his preaching. He's one of the most exemplary leaders that we have in our society, in our ISKCON. All the senior devotees, junior devotees, equal devotees who come in contact with him, usually when they hear that you are working or serving under Srila Niranjana Maharaj, they always are congratulating you because they are saying this is the most wonderful Vaishnava, because this Vaishnava don't have completely any envy in his heart, and he is a real well-wisher to all the devotees and all the living beings. And it's very interesting that today, along with Srila Niranjan Maharaj, we have also one of my best friends in Krishna consciousness, Shisha Prabhu. You also heard a lot of things about him because actually my Urdhva Pundra Samskara was done by him because he was the first person who put tilak on my forehead. He was the first person who shaved my head with his own hands. Since then I never grew at least long hair. And he put a kantimala on my neck. And he was very supportive and encouraging, especially during the first years of my Krishna consciousness. And then later, of course, Srila Niranjan Maharaj, he was amongst those persons who left a very important print in my consciousness, because people are saying that usually in your life you have about 5 persons who is molding you and is molding your character and your vision in life. And when I was thinking usually about who are the persons who really influenced my spiritual life and influenced my development like as a person, then I have a few personalities. Of course, my spiritual master, Srila Shivarama Swami, but then the second personality is of course Srila Niranjan Maharaj, because all the times when I was passing through some difficulties in my spiritual life or I needed some support, his Bengali, the heart of a Bengali mother was always there, always for me. And he's really like my mother in Krishna consciousness. And even sometimes devotees were asking me, why didn't you took initiation from him, but you took from Srila Shivaram Swami? And usually my answer is that Srila Shivaram Swami is a little bit strict with me. He's like my father. But I did not want to lose my relationship with Niranjan Maharaj like with my mother. And Guru Maharaj, I'm so thankful that you are here today. And we need your association, we need your help. And on behalf of all the devotees that are here today, I just want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much for being with us. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Niranjan Maharaj ki jai.
You should have kirtan first. Second, I'm going to have to do a little minor revision here. I don't want to move the microphones, but I have to put this, that's right. So it doesn't come off the table. Thank you. That's good. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Hare Krishna. Thank you. I'd like to thank all of you for receiving me this evening, giving me this opportunity to be in your association. And as Radha Govinda Prabhu explained, it's my first time in Romania. It's circumstantially, I saw there was an opportunity to do it, and I go to Ukraine regularly, but I can't fly to Ukraine, so I have to fly to some neighboring country and then drive into Ukraine. So I've been going up until now. I've been flying into Budapest and drive into Ukraine from Budapest, but I said, why not try flying into Romania and drive into Ukraine from Romania? So I'm very glad I made that decision. I don't know how many times it will have to be. Who knows how many times it will happen in the future. But such are the circumstances now that Krishna has put us in. We oftentimes quote, Nyahyasya kahechid rajan pumadvedid vihitsitam yad vijigasya yukta mayanti kavayopihi. It's a verse spoken by Lord Bhishmadev. Interesting. The verse was quoted because of a circumstance of the war, battlefield of Kurukshetra. And Yudhishthira Maharaj was very bewildered, and he was lamenting even, why is it this battle has taken place, and so many people have been killed, and it seems to be simply on my account. Bhishmadev's response was, nobody can understand Krishna's plan. Even though great philosophers acquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. I didn't come to speak about that topic, but I thought I had to give an explanation as to how circumstantially I'm passing through Romania. Although interesting, when I arrived yesterday at the airport, going through immigration, the immigration officer, when I handed my passport, and he looked at me, and he said, "What are you doing here?" I expected a little bit more of a reception than that, especially since I have a Hungarian residency, and I showed him my Hungarian residency card, so I thought, no problems entering Romania with my Hungarian residency. And so that's what I'm doing here. But I didn't tell him that. I told him I'm here to visit friends. And I gave the explanation because maybe Krishna will arrange it somehow. I can come more frequently in the near future. Let's see. But, every journey begins with the first step. So this is why I'm here, and I've also been wanting to see Radha Govinda and Moksha-rupa. It's been too long. As Radha Govinda explained, that we've spent a lot of time together previous years. He spoke about my heart of a Bengali mother. I don't remember that, but obviously he must have some memory of it. It's I guess what makes it really easy is if you really care about somebody, then You can call it what you want, Heart of Bengali Mother, or anything like that. I really care about these two devotees. And I've served with them for so many years prior to their coming to Romania. And I was not so happy when the decision was made, but I understood the purpose behind it, and I fully gave my full blessings to let him come here and to begin his preaching here in a place where, as he's said in the beginning, it was a challenge, many challenges, but now look at all of you. It's so wonderful. And so I'm very, very happy to get this opportunity to be in your association and to see what's happened. How many years? 6 years? You've been coming here now? Yeah, you've been here permanently, 6 years. So as I normally do whenever I visit, I always submit myself to the local leadership and ask them, what would you like me to speak on? And I asked Radha Govinda last night what he would like me to speak on. And he said, speak about association with devotees. Is there a reason?
The reason is that we are in the beginning of building our community, and it's an important topic.
It's an important topic. So I'm going to be reading something. I'm going to take advantage that I've been told everybody understands when I'm speaking English, and there's no need for translation. So I'm going to take advantage of having it's a rare event for me to be able to speak in English and have everybody understand. And I'm going to be reading from Sri Bhaktyaloka and giving commentary on the topic of association. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he answers a question is, what is association? And he also says, what isn't association? And he gives a very profound explanation on this. And he's speaking from, in Sri Bhaktyaloka, it is a series of essays that Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote on the 6 activities which are favorable for devotional service and 6 activities which are unfavorable. So there are 12 essays. And one of the activities of favorable for devotional service is to abandon the association of non-devotees. And sometimes people have a hard time understanding how to do that in a very practical way. Giving up association of non-devotees, especially householders. Especially, householders, not just householders, anyone who has to interact with the world. And I have, many times, devotees have approached me with a complaint. How do I deal with the people I have to work with? Anybody ever had that? Yeah. How do I, and then sometimes it gets to the point where it becomes so frustrating that they start thinking that they want to renounce it, which of course is not really their calling. It's just Balguvaragya, which is false renunciation. But when it gets to that, of course, it requires an explanation and it requires a proper understanding of what is association and what isn't association. Because many times devotees fall into the trap of mistakenly thinking that because I'm in physical proximity with these people, I'm associating with them. Bhaktivinoda Thakur very clearly explains that association doesn't mean physical proximity. The fact of the matter is, many devotees could be in physical proximity of each other constantly and never associate. That's a hard truth, a hard reality. And sometimes they don't, because they don't know what is association. So because they're in physical proximity of devotees, they think that they have an ideal conception of what association should be because I'm physically close to them, and doesn't meet their ideals, and they sometimes become disillusioned. Or, in the other example, the other side of the spectrum, as we just said, that they are physical proximity with many non-devotees, having to work with them, interact with them, exchange with them, and but associating, thinking they're associating with them. So one really has to be able to discriminate and understand what is association and what is not association. And in speaking on this topic, Bhaktivinoda Thakur very interestingly explains, he concludes, I'm going to read his conclusion on the topic because it'll help shed some light on the substance of the message. At the concluding words on this topic, he says, there's no need to speak further about this. He doesn't give a lot of detail, but he gives some more detail than what one may get by reading Upadeshamrita, where Rupa Goswami basically says, abandon association of non-devotees. And that's very explicit and very clear, but there's not so many instructions. So he gives a little bit more elaborate details of what is association, what is not association. But he says, due to their pious activities, those who have developed faith and devotional service, they have a little intelligence by the mercy of Krishna. So, in other words, the foundation of being able to understand these teachings, which is essential, and the reason why I'm speaking about it tonight, I don't speak about it everywhere because actually sometimes non-devotees can't understand that devotees are supposed to abandon association with them. And they think it's pretty insulting. Supposed to give it up. And then they hear, give up the association of non-devotees, because if you associate with non-devotees, then, well, there are consequences. You develop a mentality. What is the expression in English? Birds of a feather flock together. If you associate with a certain mentality type of people and you're with them often, then you become like them. And I'm sure many of us can relate. I can, certainly in my youth. I understand that in my youth, kind of people I was associating with, you become obliged. Sometimes they call it pressure, peer pressure, to behave in a certain way, and which is maybe even against our nature, but then if you do it long enough, it starts to become your nature. So, but if there's faith, he says, if Due to their pious activities, those who have developed faith in devotional service have a little intelligence by the mercy of Krishna. Due to that intelligence, they can easily understand the essence of the Acharya's instructions. Therefore, only a few words are needed to instruct them. Those who have no pious credits have no faith. Even if they are given volumes of instruction, they will not understand a thing. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami has given only a few words of instruction in Sri Upadeshamrita. Hasn't gone into a lot of detail. Because it's assumed that, and in fact, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in the course of his essays in Sri Bhaktyaloka, he specifically is addressing his audience, and he says, throughout his essays, he says, "O sadhakas." He's assuming that he's speaking to sadhakas. And who are sadhakas? Sadhakas are those who engage in sadhana. And he oftentimes speaks about doing work as a sadhaka. And when he speaks about doing work as a sadhaka, he's not talking about going and punching the clock for a 9 to 5 job. He's talking about those who do work, internal work, looking within their own hearts and examining what are my motives, what are my qualities that I should work on in the cultivation of devotional service, and what activities should I try to avoid so I don't become degraded. How do I stay in the association of devotees without becoming a fault finder and start thinking that association with non-devotees is better than the association with devotees? I mean, these are things that all can happen to a aspiring sadhaka, transcendentalist. Unknowingly, it can happen if they are not willing to do work, internal work. And therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur specifically speaks and addresses his audience, assuming that those who are hearing this message of Sri Bhaktyaloka, these essays, they're sadhakas. They're chanting Hare Krishna, they associate, which we'll speak about, and what does it mean to associate? They associate with devotees, and they aspire to develop good qualities, and they should know what those good qualities are. They should know what bad qualities are, and what tendencies that are there within I should try to avoid. They should learn how to pray for help, because as practicing sadhakas, one of the things we find that even if we become aware of certain tendencies that we have, for instance, envy, I mean, that's usually the big challenge, envy. We start looking, where's the switch, How do I turn that one off? There's no switch. And sometimes devotees even, they get a little bit impatient. One of the most common questions devotees ask, Guru Maharaj, how do I become free from envy? Have you had that question before? So it's like, it just doesn't go away. It's ingrained. It's been there for a long time. In fact, it's interesting. In the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a prayer by Prahlad Maharaj to Lord Nrsingadev. We praise to Lord Nrsingadev may all envious people become pacified. Yes, you know the verse, Swasyastu. I forget the Sanskrit. It comes with old age. I forget a lot of the. But yeah, and do you ever notice what Prabhupada gives in the word-for-word translation? The word kala means envious persons. So Prabhupada puts next to it in parentheses, almost everyone. Look it up. It's 5th canto, 9th chapter. It was the 18th verse, something like that. Yeah, in the word-for-word translation, he says, kala means envious person. And Prabhupada puts almost everyone. In other words, it's the reason why we're here. So there's no switch, to turn it off. But we have to learn how to, while purifying ourselves, purifying our hearts, in the association of devotees, we have to learn how at least to practice some restraint. Controlling the mind, controlling the tendency to find fault with others. One of the things that I speak about, although it's not going to be my topic tonight, but it's controlling the urge to speak. Devotees are shaking their head. Have you talked on this topic before?
You can leave next week.
Okay. Controlling the urge to speak, yeah. Because we have, every one of us, every living being has an innate propensity to talk about somebody. It's natural. It's our constitutional nature. We have a tongue. But of course, the innate propensity to talk about somebody is to talk about Krishna. Machchita magata prana puryata parasparam. Krishna says, thoughts of my devotees dwell in me, their lives are surrendered to me. They derive great satisfaction and bliss in enlightening one another and conversing about me. So we have a natural proclivity to speak about somebody. And even in the spiritual world, everybody's just talking about that little blue boy. In whatever way that their hearts have been captivated by his behavior, or by his form, by his qualities, by his beauty. Even Mother Jasoda, when she's churning butter, she's making up songs. She's singing about her wonderful son, about his wonderful activities that she adores. So everybody talks about somebody, but innate propensity is to speak about Krishna. But the problem is, if we don't take advantage of our tongues to glorify Krishna, what is it verse? Atakshi Krishna namadi nabhavid graham indriya sevamokehi jivado svayame basvarachada. Yeah. Krishna can be understood with transcendental senses which have been purified by engaging the sevamokehi jivado, tongue, and speaking about Krishna and tasting Krishna prasadam. We had a lot of discussion today about reminiscing the old days, about the kind of feasts we used to have, about how we used to control our tongues in the early days. We're talking about halava. Yeah. Even I remember when I started visiting the temple in 1972, the Boston Temple, I had to drive about 100 miles. I was living 100 miles away from the temple. And for the whole trip, I'd be thinking about strawberry halva. So the tongue is very important. We say it every day, how to control it. But if we don't talk about Krishna and control it in the most natural way, then we speak about others. And yeah, it's a very, very elaborate talking about controlling the urge to speak. And there's so many different kinds of talks about others that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, of course, gossiping, fault-finding. We have to practice restraint while we purify our existence by associating with devotees, because without association, it's very difficult. Prabhupada, when he's giving his commentary to the song Bhajahure Manashinandanadana Abhaya Charanara Drulabha Manava Janama Satsange, talks about it's not possible to control the mind without the association of devotees. That is his conclusion. It's just not possible. We're not great yogis. It's actually a great benediction to be in the association of devotees, because we have to learn to control our minds. If we don't, we'll lose it. In fact, Krishna can only tolerate so much. He knows how to weed the garden. Sometimes if there's too many weeds, sometimes people don't know how to associate, and they take advantage. They don't learn how to practice restraint, and they think that everything, especially when they start thinking in an absolute way and they start fault-finding, before long, Krishna weeds the garden. So restraint has to be practiced until we spontaneously only speak about Krishna. That's the point. When we're purified, we only speak about Krishna. For instance, I'll get to association. It may be next week, we'll see. There's a verse, Smartavya satatam Vishnu vismatavyo najatuchit savavidi nasedasya eteyo eva kinkara. Krishna must always be remembered, and conversely, Krishna should never be forgotten. All the rules. Are you translating? Am I speaking too fast for you? I'm okay. I can slow down sometimes. Okay. All the rules and all the prohibitions which are given in the scriptures are meant to serve these two principles. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. And it's very interesting, there's a commentary on this verse by one of our previous acharyas, who explains that generally the word satatam means always. Always means always. All the time. Like Krishna says, what says? Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantas chadridhavrata. Krishna says, Satatam kirta. Devotees are always chanting my glories, always bowing down before me, always endeavoring with great determination. But the acharyas, in explaining this verse, they say, in this verse is a different meaning of the word satatam. And they explain why that is so. And the reason that's given is, if one always remembers Krishna, then why does somebody have to be told, don't forget Krishna? There's no need for it. If one's always remembering Krishna, there's no need for an injunction. Don't forget him, because you're always remembering Krishna. So this verse is specifically meant for those who can't always remember Krishna. And therefore they're warned. There's vidhis and nishedas. There's favorable activities which help us to remember Krishna. And there's nishedas. There's restrictions and rules, prohibitions that we should avoid to help us to remember Krishna, so that we don't forget him. So because both are given there, the vidhis and the nishedas, or always remember and don't forget, the meaning of satatam is different in this verse. because it's specifically meant for those who can't follow that instruction. So what does Satatam mean in this verse? And this is what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says. Satatam means every day. That's what it means always, every day. I can't always remember, just like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, tells Arjuna in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, always think of me. That's his instruction to Arjuna, just always think of me and you will come to me. But then he says in the next verse, Atachitam samadhatam nashiknosi maistiram abhyasa yogena tato mami chaptam dhananjaya. So if you can't think of me all the time, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, cultivate a desire to attain me. So, what does it mean to follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga? Most people, when they hear follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, they think no illicit sex, no intoxication, Krishna's not telling Arjuna to follow the 4 regulative principles. That's not what he's instructing him to do. That's not regular principles of devotional service, that's the regular principles of human life. When he's telling Arjuna to follow the regular principles of Bhakti Yoga, he's telling him to regulate his life in such a way that he can always remember me. And this way you'll cultivate a desire to attain me. So it means every day. This is sadhana. And this is who Bhaktivinoda Thakur is speaking to, sadhakas. Speaking to sadhakas who follow the regular principles of Bhakti Yoga. Of course, Krishna says, if you can't do that, then you can offer the fruits of your activities to me. If you can't do that, then offer the results in charity. He gives so many different concessions. If you can't do that, can't do that. But for sadhakas, it means sadhana. That every day we should regulate our lives in such a way that we're remembering Krishna. And therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is speaking to sadhakas in Sri Bhaktyaloka. There's this water here. Huh? Mm-hmm. That's what I thought. Oh, you want it? Well, you can have it also. Yeah, this is better for me anyways. I should use one of these. Oops. So, every day, yes. It's just helpful. If we don't do that, then of course the tendency is to forget. So, as I said, association is so important. So I'm going to read a little bit on this topic. How late should we go tonight? 8:30? Okay. And probably won't finish it, but we can at least start it.
Stay till even 9, so it's not a problem.
You know what? Is it going to take us another hour and a half to get back? Because tomorrow we'll leave. Just maybe 30 minutes. Okay. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, what is association and giving up association? Many people have doubts about this. Doubts may be there Because if just by coming close to a materialist or a material object is considered associating with them, then there's no way to give up this association. As long as the material body is there, how can one give up the proximity of these things? How can a Grihastha Vaishnava give up his family members? How many times have we heard, what do I do? My husband or my wife, they don't want to become a devotee. Anyways, hopefully you don't have that problem here. So, that's a whole topic in of itself. I'm not going to go there. It's another topic. One cannot give up the association of deceitful persons, even if they are renunciates. One will have to come across materialists in one's life, whether one is a grihastha or a renunciate. Therefore, the limit for giving up the association of materialists is prescribed in Sri Upadeshamrita as follows. Anybody know this verse? Dadati Patagranati? Who can quote it for me? Yes. Very good. And you can give me the translation? Huh? Okay. Well, it's okay. We can go to Sanskrit. The translation will come naturally. So, offering gifts in charity, accepting charitable gifts, revealing one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasadam, and offering prasadam are the 6 symptoms of love shared by one devotee and another. This is such an important verse in Srila Rupa Goswami's instructions. This is how to associate. But he says, the emphasis is, what makes it so important is when there's priti. Priti means affection, love. If one gives a gift to someone out of love, then it means I want to please the beloved. Rupa Goswami is not telling here, I'm giving a gift because I know I'll get one back. Prahlad Maharaj already defined that in Srimad Bhagavatam. When Lord Nrsingadev wanted to give him a benediction, he said, I'm not a merchant. I didn't come here for a mercantile exchange with you. I just want to serve you. That's all. You be my master and let me be your servant birth after birth. If you want to give me a benediction, don't try to tempt me. Don't you remember I was born in a family of demons? So why try to tempt me by asking me to ask you for something? That's all. You be my servant, be my master, and let me be your servant. So Rupa Goswami is not talking about mercantile exchanges. He's talking about loving exchanges. And a loving exchange means priti, is affection. You give something. Why? Because you love that person. Now, of course, love is a word that's can't be used too cheaply, because Rupa Goswami defines love in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Prabhupada talks about it in Nectar of Devotion. It means to be able to repose all of one's affection upon one object without any diversion. That's love. Of course, it can only be focused on Krishna, because only Krishna can awaken that kind of stimulus. He can only Krishna can reciprocate and satisfy love in such a way that it's eternal and ever increasing and unlimited. Only Krishna can do that. But if we exchange loving exchanges with devotees, that means we should be looking for devotees who love Krishna. For instance, there's that story, Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's a story about the story of Sakshi Gopal. Do they know this story? Maybe. Anybody know the story of Sakshi Gopal? Huh? Yes, the witness deity. Now, why did Sakshi Gopal, why did he bear witness? He bore witness because there were two Brahmins, and Prabhupada said they were pure. Two Brahmins, they were going on pilgrimage together. They were from Vijayanagar, and they went to many different places of pilgrimage. And they ultimately ended up in Mathura, went to Govardhan. And one was an elderly Brahmin and one was a younger Brahmin. And the younger Brahmin, he was serving the elderly Brahmin so much that the elderly Brahmin became so overwhelmed, he says, even my own son doesn't take care of me like you've taken care of me. He said, I want to give you something because you've helped me in this whole journey. And you served me. I want to give you something in return. And the younger Brahmin said, I serve you because it's pleasing Krishna. I have no other reason to do that. And if Krishna is pleased by service to Brahmins, and if one's renders service to Brahmins, then all one's spiritual opulences increase. So the younger Brahmin was thinking, I'm serving you because it's pleasing to Krishna. He's pleased. Why you want to offer me something in charity? I don't expect it. And in fact, what did the elderly Brahmin offer? He offered his daughter. Now, of course, that's a whole story. And I'll tell it, but not tonight. But the point is that the motivation of the younger Brahmin in serving the elderly Brahmin was, he wasn't expecting anything in return. It was affection. He was doing it to please. Sudam Brahman is another example. When he went before his friend Krishna, he brought some grains of broken rice. His wife was requesting him, go visit your friend. Why do we have to live in such poverty? I can't even feed you. Look at you, you're emaciated. You're living so poorly. Your friend Krishna, he can give you simply whatever you need. Why don't you go? Sudam Brahman didn't want to go empty-handed. He said, I have to bring something. He brought some rice. The wife went next door. She got some broken grains of rice and brought it to him. She tied it up in a little cloth. And then, by the request of his wife, he went to Lord Krishna. He became so overwhelmed because when Krishna was so eager to accept his offering, to accept his rice, he became so overwhelmed by seeing his friend, and they began talking, remembering their times together as disciples with their spiritual master, the difficulties they had to undergo. And Sudam Brahman was just so happy to get the darshan of his Lord that he became so overwhelmed that when came time to leave, he remembered, I never even asked him for what I came here for, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy. And he didn't even mention anything about it. So happy. It's perfect. Why was he so happy? Because he didn't, he didn't want to do it. He was compelled to do so by the request of his wife, and his wife was only thinking about her service to him. It was selfless on her part also. But when he left, after seeing Krishna, then he was just so happy that Krishna made no mention of it whatsoever, gave him no wealth, and he made no mention of why he came there, because he didn't even think that was a good reason to go anyways. And so, of course, we know what happened. Krishna, because the devotee doesn't expect anything and want anything, Krishna naturally wants to give something in reciprocation. It's a nice story. I'd love to tell this story in this connection. It's because it's a perfect illustration of this principle, of the story of Maharaj Ambarish and Durvasa Muni. Most of you should probably know this story, right? Maharaj Ambarish and Durvasa Muni. No? Okay. Should I tell it? All right. I'll tell it briefly. Maharaj Ambarish was a great king. And he was known for being someone who was always absorbed all of his senses in rendering service to the Lord. He's considered to be the ideal example of engaging everything in Krishna's service. Engaged his mind in thinking about Krishna. He engaged his hands in cleansing the temple. He engaged his eyes in looking at the beautiful form of the deity. He engaged his nose in smelling the fragrant incense offered to the deity. He engaged his tongue in tasting prasadam that was offered to the deity. He engaged his legs by walking regularly to the temple of the Lord. In this way, he was fully matpara, devotee of the Lord, fully engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. And he was following a fast. And for a year, he was following a fast. And he had to break the fast at a certain time. Otherwise, if the fast weren't broken at the appropriate time, then the whole fast would have been rendered useless. But just at about the time that he was supposed to break his fast, the sage Durvasa Muni appeared at the palace. And Durvasa Muni appeared with him, he appeared, and he said that before he would take anything, because the king, when he receives a guest, the first thing he should do is offer a place to sit, offer him some water, sitting place, some water, some food, and everything. And the king or the host is never supposed to take before his guest. And but Durvasa Muni said he was going to go and take a bath, and when he returned, he would accept whatever Maharaj Ambarish would offer him. So Maharaj Ambarish was in a dilemma. Durvasa Muni was going to take a bath, and while he was taking a bath was exactly the time when he was supposed to break his fast. So he consulted with the learned Brahmins, and he asked them, what should I do? So the Brahmins explained to him that actually if you drink water, it's considered to be both fasting and not fasting. So just take a little water, and in this way, you will not have broken your fast. So Maharaj Ambarish took a little water, and when Durvasa Muni returned from taking his bath, because he's a mystic yogi, and he immediately understood what had happened, and he became very angry. He said, what kind of king are you? He began insulting him, so many various words. You don't deserve to be a king. What king takes honors before his guest? And he became very angry. And he invoked a fiery demon to punish Maharaj Ambarish to kill him. And when he invoked his fiery demon, the Lord Vishnu, who was watching the whole affair, he invoked his Sudarshan chakra to protect Maharaj Ambarish. It's also very interesting to note that in this pastime, given in the ninth canto of the Bhagavatam, Maharaj, it's described that Maharaj Ambarish was so accustomed to always thinking of the Lord. His mind was always just fixed on thinking of the Lord, that even when this fiery demon was invoked to kill him, he didn't even think to ask the Lord to protect him. Didn't even ask. I mean, usually under most circumstances, if something terrible is going to happen, we pray to the Lord. But Maharaj Ambarish didn't even pray. He didn't ask the Lord for anything. He just simply did what was most natural. He remembered the Lord, because that's what he always does. So because he remembered the Lord and always was fixed in remembrance of the Lord gave him protection and invoked his Sudarshan chakra to destroy the fiery demon. When the demon was destroyed, the chakra began chasing after Durvasa Muni. And Durvasa Muni, of course, was very fearful. He understood the potency of this chakra. And he went to take shelter of Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma said, "I'm sorry, I can't do anything to help you." Then he went to Lord Shiva, to his abode. Lord Shiva said, "No, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do to help you." And then he went to Lord Vishnu. And Lord Vishnu said, "Sorry, there's nothing I can do to help you." And he didn't expect that response from Lord Vishnu, because Lord Vishnu is the one who invoked the chakra. Everywhere else was told him, "We can't do anything." The chakra was invoked by Lord Vishnu. So he figured if he got to Lord Vishnu, then certainly. And Lord Vishnu told him, he said, "No," I said, I'm not independent. I can't act independently for my devotee. He said, "My devotees are always thinking about me, and I'm always thinking about them. And devotee is always in my heart. I'm always in the heart of the devotee." And in the explanation of this particular pastime that took place conversation between Durvasa Muni and Lord Vishnu, Durvasa Muni actually is saying, "I've come to you for protection. If you don't give me protection, I'm coming to take shelter of you. And if you don't give me protection, then who can I go to? I have nobody else. That's the last stop." And he was specifically requesting him that I surrender, I take shelter of you. Please think of my situation and help me. And the Lord was telling him, and he said, "No, I can't do anything, because I'm fully dependent on my devotee, Ambarish Maharaj, because he always thinks of me." And he explains to Durvasa Muni the reason why. He said, "Maharaj Ambarish always serves me. And he takes me into the core of his heart and always renders all kinds of service to me within his heart, and he's always thinking of me all the time. And naturally, I want to reciprocate, because the Lord doesn't need anything. He says, "Patra pushpam palam toyam yomi bhakti priyachati." If you offer me a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water with love, I'm very eager to take that, but he doesn't need it. What does he want? He wants the love. So he's very eager to accept an offering which is made with love. And naturally, when somebody is offering with love, it means he doesn't expect anything in return. That's the nature of love. It doesn't expect something in return. Otherwise, as we already quoted Prahlad, somebody who expects something in return is a merchant, and is engaged in a mercantile relationship with the Lord. I'll do this for you. Okay, I can wait a little while, but eventually, you know, I want something. What does the devotee want? He wants service. And that's what Lord Vishnu told Durvasa Muni. He told Durvasa Muni, he said, Maharaj Ambarish always serves me, takes me within his heart, and always offers me service, and I want to give him something in return. But he always says, I don't want anything. He said, but I can give you a kingdom. I can give you anything, position, anything you want. And my devotees, Maharaj Ambarish always says, all I want is to serve you. If I give him something, he doesn't need it, doesn't want it. But I want to give him something because the Lord is a natural reciprocator. He definitely reciprocates love. Nasadiyatu mam yogo nyashankya dhamma udava is explained in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, that love brings Krishna under control. For one who loves Krishna, Krishna becomes completely controlled by them, subordinate to them. So, I've asked Durvasa Muni so many times, can I give you something in return? But all he wants is to serve me. So I had to give him something because I love him so much. So Durvasa Muni, you're asking me to have a heart? And I'm telling you, I don't have a heart. Because I reached into my treasure house and I gave Maharaj Ambarish the most valuable treasure I have in my possession. I gave my heart to him. You're saying, have a heart. I don't have it. You want my heart? You got to go to Maharaj Ambarish. He's got it. He controls me by his love. You're asking me to think about my suffering? I don't think about, I think only about my devotees. Devotees are always thinking about me, and therefore, because they're always thinking about me, I think only of them. So this is the kind of reciprocal, loving exchange that takes place between the Lord and his devotees who don't expect. Love means you want to please the beloved. These types of gifts, these types of offerings, when made to the Lord demonstrates himself to be the most wonderful reciprocator of love. He can give something much greater than some petty benediction. He gives himself. So, same principle is there between devotees. If we want to learn to love the Lord, we have to learn how to love the Lord's devotees. This is an example, a very nice analogy. I like to use this analogy. If a person is looking off in the distance and he sees this huge mountain, Mount Everest, and it's all he can see is this Mount Everest because it's the highest mountain. But if he gets a little bit closer, as he gets closer to the mountain, he sees there's many subordinate mountains next to the Mount Everest. Why? Because he's closer. So similarly, if one thinks it's only Krishna, I only care about Krishna, that means he's very far away. Because if you want to get close to Krishna, he's always surrounded by devotees. You can't get close to Krishna unless you get closer to his devotees. If one really wants to develop their love for Krishna, they have to learn how to love devotees. If they don't learn how to love devotees, they have no chance. Krishna says, one who's the devotee of my devotee, that's my devotee. One who says he's my devotee is not my devotee. So if we want to learn to love Krishna, we have to learn how to love devotees. We have to learn how to develop loving relationships between devotees. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining here that this is the basis of association. Association begins when there's priti, when there's affection. This is association. Otherwise, we may be in physical proximity of many other persons, deceitful persons, mundane people, people who have many bad qualities. But if we reserve that priti, affection, for devotees, we won't become contaminated by their association. This is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to explain. We don't fall into bad association. But why do we do it? Duty. And here he's going to explain. O sadhakas, one must accept proximity with both bad and good people as one passes his life. This equally applies to householders and renunciates. Proximity must be there. Nevertheless, one should not engage in bad association. Giving in charity, accepting charity, revealing one's mind, hearing one's mind, accepting foods and giving foods, if done with love, these are called sangha, or association. Giving foodstuffs to a hungry person and accepting some charity from a pious man is done out of duty, not out of love. Even if they are materialists, this type of engagement is not considered association. Just like personally, we've got to be answerable to our boss, we have to be associated with many colleagues at work. It's our duty. Householder has a duty to maintain family. It requires some maintenance, maintain body and soul together. This is all explained by Narada Muni in the 14th chapter of Bhagavatam to Yudhishthira Maharaj, which describes what is the ideal householder life. A householder has to earn the means of livelihood to maintain body and soul together. He has to learn how to offer the results of his work for the satisfaction of Lord. He has to learn how to know how to. He has to learn what to accept and what not to accept. So it's done out of duty. Giving some foodstuffs to a hungry person, accepting some charity from a pious man, is done out of duty, not out of love. Even if they are materialists, this type of engagement is not considered association. But if they are pure devotees, then such activities are performed out of love. When acts are performed out of love, then it is association. Therefore, giving charity to pure Vaishnavas and accepting items or wealth from them becomes satsanga. Giving charity to a materialist or accepting charity from one, if done out of love, becomes asatsanga. What's asatsanga? Anyone know that? Asatsanga tyaga e Vaishnava acha. Sri Sangi eka sadhu Krishna bhakta ara. Asatsanga means what one has to, this whole principle of giving up association of worldly minded people. Asatsanga tyaga, one must renounce. So he said that whatever is required to be done should be done only out of duty. One should not speak confidentially with a materialist. Generally, there is some love involved in confidential speaking. Therefore, it is association, right? Revealing one's mind in confidence. There's some love. There's some. That's a whole topic. I'm not. That's the controlling the urge to speak topic. Nobody wants to reveal their mind to somebody who doesn't know how to control their tongue, right? Because You reveal your mind to somebody that you don't trust. You can't. And how can you have? How can it be confidential if you don't trust them? Because if you know that as soon as you reveal something to them about yourself, any particular type of weakness, if they go and tell somebody else, and what to speak of, put it on Facebook. It's like, nobody's. If people don't learn how to control the urge to speak about others, there'll be no confidential relationships. There'll be no loving exchanges. There'll be no satsanga. If people don't know how to control the urge to speak, nobody will reveal their mind in confidence. Because there would be no trust. There'll be no love. It's a whole topic. It's a very, very important topic about loving association. Confidential relationships. But anyways, generally, one should not speak confidentially with a materialist. Why? Because a materialist doesn't know how to control his mind and senses. That's why he's called a materialist. And because he doesn't know how to control the mind and senses, then they'll use anything for their own benefit, personal benefit, even some confidential information that's been revealed to them. They'll use it at the right time and place for exploitative purposes. So no confidential revealing one's mind to materialistic friend. So generally there is some love involved in confidential speaking, therefore it is association. While meeting a materialistic friend, one should speak only what is extremely necessary. At that time, it is better not to exhibit heartfelt love. Now, don't forget, I went to the end at the beginning. I specifically went to the end to emphasize that these topics are not, I'm explaining in a lot of detail, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur is also explaining a lot of detail. But unless there's faith, unless there's Shraddha, so many instructions can be given, and as Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, one will never be able to understand this. Never be able to understand. They think they'll immediately start thinking, sounds like pretty duplicitous stuff going on here. It's not duplicitous at all. It's not at all. It's understanding how to accept things favorable for devotional service, which is the principle of surrender, and how to reject that which is unfavorable for devotional service. These are 2 of the 6 principles of surrender. Accept everything favorable means what is necessary to maintain a devotional creeper and keep it so that it doesn't become destroyed by mundane association. Lord Chaitanya says that one has to build a fence around that devotional creeper and protect it so it's not destroyed. Of course, what destroys that protective creeper is atimata, is a mad elephant offense. But that's another topic. So while meeting a materialistic friend, one should speak only what is extremely necessary. At that time, it is better not to exhibit heartfelt love. But if that friend is a proper Vaishnava, then one should accept his association by speaking to him with love. This type of behavior with relatives and friends creates no hostility. I'm going to just read through to the end and leave a little time for questions. Is that okay? Yeah, because there may be questions. All right? So I could give more details, but I'm trusting that everybody here has enough intelligence that all the details won't be required. So, this type of behavior with relatives and friends creates no hostility. There is no association in ordinary talk. One should behave with ordinary people as one externally behaves with a stranger while buying something in the market. The same dealings with a pure devotee of the Lord should be done out of love. If one is obliged to feed hungry people, needy people, and teachers, he should do so as a host dutifully cares for his guest. Dutifully cares for his guest. There's no need to exhibit love. Care for them, but not out of love. What does we say love means? Love means that you want to exclusively please the object of ones you love. Exclusively please them. But if you try to exclusively please a materialist is going to take advantage of that exclusive. They're going to use it to their own advantage. Best to not give it. Do it as a duty. They won't know the difference. Because externally, if you behave just like, what was it? Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Rupa Goswami, wasn't it? Was it when he wrote in the letter to Rupa Goswami? Was it Rupa and Sanatana Goswami? It's about the wife who has a paramour. When a woman has a paramour, she's even more attentive to her householder duties, even more attentive, so her husband never suspects. But inside her heart, she's always thinking of her lover. So that was Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Rupa Goswami. Externally, you have to be very attentive, convince, so they'll never suspect. But in the heart is where the love is. The heart is reserved for Vaishnavas, loving exchanges. Then that's association. But if it's done out of duty, fine. There's no bad association. I'll finish. I said I was not going to give any more commentary. Forgive me. Mm-hmm. If one is obliged to feed hungry people, needy people, and teachers, he should do so as a host dutifully cares for his guest. There is no need to exhibit love. Care for them, but not out of love. One should feed pure Vaishnavas with love, and required accept the remnants given by them with love. If one can behave in this way while while giving in charity, accepting charity, speaking confidentially, hearing confidentially, feeding and accepting food with one's wife, children, servants, maidservants, strangers, and whoever else one meets, there will be no unholy association, only good association. There is no hope of achieving devotion to Krishna until one gives up unholy association in this way. A renunciate Vaishnava should accept whatever alms he receives by madhukari, or begging, at the house of honest householders, with the above-mentioned consideration. He should always remember the difference between gross begging and madhukari. A Grihastha Vaishnava should accept prasadam grains and drinks in the house of another Grihastha who has pure character. One should always be cautious about taking prasad in the house of a non-devotee and one with bad character. There is no need to speak further about this. Due to their pious activities, those who have developed faith in devotional service have a little intelligence by the mercy of Krishna. Due to that intelligence, they can easily understand the essence of the Acharya's instructions. Therefore, only a few words are needed to instruct them. Those who have no pious credits have no faith. Even if they are given volumes of instruction, they will not understand a thing. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami has given only a few words of instruction in Sri Upadeshamrita. Hare Krishna. Any questions?
Thank you very much for the wonderful lecture. I have a question regarding renunciation.
Renunciation?
Yes, especially regarding family association with the family members. Should you renounce them if they're helping you in devotional service? Is this all right?
What do you mean by renounce them? Leave them?
Yes, like leave their association because they're not devotees.
There's no need to renounce, to give up their association because they're not devotees. No, especially if they're helping in devotional service. I always use this as an example. I have a disciple whose wife was she was very antagonistic. But he was always able to keep peace in the family. He would go to church once a week with her. Well, I mean, once every 2 weeks with her. And on the second, she would come to the temple, and he did this for many years. And he never tried to push Krishna consciousness on her. And when she would come to the temple, when I was there, she'd always sit in the back with, I immediately understood, this woman is not very happy about being here. And he did that for 20 years. And now she's initiated. In fact, actually, just took second initiation because she wants to serve the deities. Very patient. He was very patient. And I have so many examples of devotees who have told me stories about how they just don't try to force themselves, force their beliefs on. They don't compromise their own devotional practices. But at the same time, they're very careful about not pushing on their spouses, and they become devotees. In fact, I remember one disciple who told his wife, he said, "Your spiritual master," something to, I can't remember exact words, but he says, "If your spiritual master tells you to stay with somebody like me, I have to accept him." And he would always facilitate her service. But does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
I mean, unless, of course, it's continuous blasphemy, or always their whole consciousness is simply absorbed in creating obstacles to devotional service. But even still, there's the whole story of, look at Raghunath Das Goswami. Lord Chaitanya also instructed him to go back and told him not to become a monkey renunciate. Tell him to live with his family and convince his family members. In fact, Prahlad Maharaj, not Prahlad Maharaj, Yudhishthira Maharaj, even in the 14th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, what is that verse? I think I might be able to find it very quickly. It's 14th chapter, 7th canto. When Yudhishthira Maharaj was instructing, Narada Muni was instructing Yudhishthira Maharaj. Yudhishthira Maharaj told Narada Muni, "You're a brahmachari. I'm a grihastha." He called himself Grihamudhadi. I've completely lost vision of what is the ultimate goal of life. You're a brahmachari. Can you instruct me how I can achieve perfection and follow the religious ways according to the conclusions of scriptures and achieve perfection of life? And Narada Muni gave so many instructions. One of the instructions he gave is an intelligent man in human society should make his own program of activities very simple. If there are suggestions from his friends, children, parents, brothers, or anyone else, he should externally agree, saying, yes, yes, that is right. But internally, he should be determined not to create a cumbersome life in which the purpose of life will not be fulfilled. So externally, we do what's necessary. But internally, just like that instruction, Lord Chaitanya, even more attentive to household duties, so that the husband never suspects. But internally, always thinking of their beloved, their lover within their heart. Tolerate. Many times people will change. They'll see. Sometimes they won't. But it's not recommended to leave somebody, especially if somebody is not doing anything to offer impediments to your devotional life. Not recommended.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you very much for coming to Bucharest. You was mentioning that we associate with materialistic people out of duty and with devotees out of love. But my crooked mind consider people who praise me. So, and most of the times, materialistic people, when they praise me,
Praise you?
When they praise me or serve me or help me, I consider them as my friends, and devotees who criticize me or correct me, because it usually happens in devotee community, my ego perceive them as enemies. And how to switch that understanding that sometimes we find ourselves that we are associating with materialistic people out of love because our ego is fed there, our ego is fed, and we associate with the devotees out of duty or even avoid association. How to switch that understanding that devotees are not the enemies, how to make that proper understanding of things.
We should try to see that the devotees are very kind and merciful. And you're talking about devotees who find fault with us, right? We see them as enemies?
In general, our sentimental understanding that love is where our senses are pleased. So yes. If materialistic people please our senses by saying something nice...
We have to understand that's if my senses are pleased, then it's not love. Love is when Krishna's senses are pleased. Bhajaniya paramasuka matrasasukatvam. That means to the degree that Krishna is pleased, we can experience happiness. But if we simply think of our own happiness, then that's... was that verse in the second canto of the Bhagavatam where Krishna reveals to Lord Brahma, Brahma, whatever you see of any value, if it has no connection to me, you should know it to be my illusory energy. So if we think it's valuable because it brings me pleasure, then Krishna says, that's my Maya. So we should not be thinking about what brings me pleasure. We should always be thinking about what brings Krishna pleasure. It's not so easy. I mean, it's as we said, we have to try. We have to practice it. But if we think that, yes, I get pleasure from people who glorify me and I consider them my friends, then I have to ask myself, do I really need to be so eager for this glorification, especially when we act in such a way to try to elicit that glorification. In fact, in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Srila Sanatana Goswami describes that the only way that one can actually become pure and spiritual is by dainya, or humility, which is the most important quality for entering into the spiritual platform. And he defines humility as a person who does not want to be glorified. At every possible opportunity, he tries to avoid being glorified. He said that's the kind of intelligence has to be there in order to develop real dainya. So we should, not that we have to look for somebody to say bad things about us, but we should understand if somebody does say something to us, we should accept it as, what is it? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, what does he call that? When somebody says something about me, there's a particular term he uses. I forget. You can't remember? I forgot it. But we should accept him as our friend. Yes. Now, it's helping me to become humble. I can tell you, I don't want to use myself as an example. I really don't like doing that. But the way things unfolded, I have to use this as an example. I had this experience. It was in the early 1970s. And I had a temple president who, for whatever reason, I didn't understand at the time. I thought maybe he was trying to train me up for some position in the future. But he used to always insult me publicly. I mean, really. And it was really hard to swallow. Now, whatever he had, whatever baggage he had, that's not the topic for discussion. But it was really hard for me because I was going out in Sankirtan sometimes 10, 12 hours a day, distributing books. And I was a Sankirtan leader. And so I tried to see it, well, maybe he's doing it because he's trying to train me up. But it was really hard to take. And one time I came back from traveling Sankirtan, and he wasn't there. And I was asked to give classes, Srimad Bhagavatam classes. And the classes were from the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the story of Maharaj Rahugana and Jad Bharata. And the verses that I was asked to speak on were the verses when Jad Bharata was hurling insults. King Rahugana was hurling insults at Jad Bharata. It's a whole story about Jad Bharata. I don't have time to tell the whole story. But he was acting like a dullard. And the particular verses I had to speak on during that day was specifically that verse when Maharaj Rahugana was insulting Jad Bharata, and Jad Bharata was saying to Maharaj Rahugana, I said, I cannot be hurt by these insults. I'm not this body. And that was the verse I was speaking on. And then the next day because the temple president wasn't there, I had to give it another verse, speak at the next class on the same topic. So Tuesday, the second day, as I was speaking, I started to think, Krishna's the most amazing personality. I couldn't believe it. I said, he's put me here to speak on this topic. And I started to feel so much mercy that I'm getting the opportunity to speak on this topic, that I was getting so many wonderful realizations of the benefit I was getting of being insulted. Because if I wasn't insulted, I would have never gotten those realizations. I was convinced. I wouldn't have been able to not only speak upon this topic, but I would have had no realization about it, but because Krishna was preparing me to give these classes. And I started to be grateful to the president. And so grateful, because I even remember when I was giving the second class, it felt like Krishna was massaging my heart. I remember that particular, as I was sitting there, I was thinking, wow, it's amazing. It's amazing. This philosophy is so perfect. Krishna is God. And then the most amazing thing that happened is not long afterwards, he stopped insulting me. And I never said anything to anybody about it. I never said anything to anybody. I just never said anything. I just always tried to tolerate it. Krishna has a plan. Has a plan. If we learn how to tolerate it, we'll see that if we can tolerate insults, then someone may see, well, what happened to that temple president, you know? I don't care what happened to him. In fact, in 1992, he was visiting Moscow at a time when I was there. And it was the first time I was telling the devotees this story about, and somehow he heard about it. And he came up to me and he said, Niranjana, was that temple president who was insulting you? Was that me? And he said, you're a sannyasi now. I'm still a grihasta. I better take a dust. I said, no, please don't. I said, thank you so much. And I explained to him what happened, and I embraced him. I said, you don't realize what kind of realizations I got because you insulted. He said, still, I better. So, it's a hard pill to swallow, but there's some benefit. There's some benefit if we seek. Nothing happens, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. So we should appreciate devotees who are trying to help us to become humble. If they're doing it for malicious purposes, Krishna will take care of them too. But we should learn how to see, at least for ourselves. And no, this is too long. I don't have time to read it. There's a nice example Srila Bhaktisiddhanta gives, but I'll stop there. Is that okay?
Thank you very much.
Okay, last question. Okay. Actually, no, you had your hand up before. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you very, very much for this amazing lesson. My question is regarding preaching. So, in my humble, small experience, the only way that my preaching bore fruit, in the sense that some of my friends joined. I'm actually surrounded by my old friends that are here. And the way this worked, at least for me, was because I gave them that love. And that's how I thought preaching is. Like, if I show them that this center that I'm going to teaches me how to love and how to offer love, then maybe they'll be inspired. And kind of that was my way of preaching. And I still do the same at workplace. I'm trying to kind of be the best version of myself, even if sometimes I kind of exaggerate it. Just trying to entice them to see this. So, in relation to what you said, is this correct or is this a wrong understanding?
The point that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is talking about, not what we give, it's what we take. It's like devotees go out in book distribution sometimes, and they say, I had to deal with so many. But we're not going out to take the association of worldly people. We're going to give them association. Same thing. If you're giving your association, and if you're doing it expertly, because love means reciprocal, and you don't want the reciprocal kind of exchange that will come from a materialistic person. But if you do it in the proper consciousness that you're doing this for their benefit, I'm doing this out of duty, I'm giving them Krishna consciousness out of duty, I'm giving them food, prasadam, out of duty. And there's not expecting something mundane to come back. The only thing we hope is that somehow that Krishna's in their heart. Krishna will dictate in such a way that they'll actually become attracted to you. And this is when we used to go out on book distribution. This point was always made to book distributors. You're not selling the book. You're selling yourself. Right? It's how you deal with people. You could say so much, but how you deal with people. So how you deal with your friends, you can deal with your friends, but loving exchange means you have to be careful not to become entangled in their worldly activities. That you don't take. You don't take that. Because if they only know how to reciprocate in a worldly way, we don't want that. But by your association, if they learn how to reciprocate with you as a devotee, then we want that. Then gradually it can come to Priti. We certainly want. That's what Lord Chaitanya did. When Lord Chaitanya started the Sankirtan movement, he went out with his associates. He didn't come alone. He brought his associates, and they went out in the streets. And what was so attractive is the way they reciprocated with each other. That's what spread the Sankirtan movement. There were reciprocations of love with Advaitrachaya, Nityananda, Srivas, Mukunda. And their loving exchanges is what attracted others to Krishna consciousness. And then they want to become part of that, seeing what is real love. That's why it's so important that devotees show the example, what is real loving exchanges. We want to show people what real loving exchanges in the community of Vaishnavas. Because the worst thing is when we talk about it and people come and see something completely different. Right? They see that there's no loving exchanges. They see this fighting, jockeying for positions, who can get more attention, who can get more, and fighting amongst each other, and competition, mundane competition, mistreatment, bad judgment. When they see these things, but yet when we talk to so many people about loving exchanges between devotees, but if we don't demonstrate it, that's what attracts people when they say, this is real. They see loving exchanges between devotees. This is real. That's what will attract them to want to become devotees. So loving exchanges are for devotees. For non-devotees, we're very careful about what we accept in return. We accept it as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, we accept charity from a pious person out of duty, not out of love.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Oh, does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very, very much.
Okay. All right. We'll end here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Oh, I can try. Hare Krishna. This is not out of duty. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Did wrong there.